Akhil, I believe we are on time and it's 1 o'clock. I'll start if you allow me, Tibor.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Sure. Thank you. A very good afternoon to you all. A new iteration of the internet is fast emerging, and this will have massive implications for our society. I, Amit Narayan Kapoor, Director Academic Management at the School of Business UPS, extends a warm welcome to our guest and all the participants who have joined us today for this intriguing discussion on a very relevant and interesting topic: evolution of metaverse, a trillion-dollar business opportunity. Aligned with our school vision to be the business school for the digital world, the School of Business Emerging Technology webinar series is an initiative to create a platform for knowledge dissemination and engagement on new age digital theme among industry and academia. This would be our fourth webinar of this series. We are pleased to share that we have been receiving very encouraging response and have been able to touch base and share the knowledge discussions with more than 10,000 viewers online through our past sessions. There has been so much discussion about the metaverse recently as companies try to understand what it means for their engagement with customer and employees and how their brand can be extended into it. Today's interaction with Tibor is designed with an intent to provide our participants clarity on metaverse, its evolution, and also the business opportunities this complex technological concept holds for future. So before we move ahead to demystify the existing and intriguing world of metaverse, let me take a few moments to introduce our acclaimed guest, Mr. Tibor Merey, Managing Director and Partner at Boston Consulting Group, who has very kindly taken out time from his busy schedule and has joined us from Vienna, Austria to grace this platform. Tibor is a core member of Boston Consulting Group's Technology, Media, and Telecommunications (TMT) and Marketing, Sales, and Market Practices (MSP) practices. He leads the TMT practices in Australia currently. He is a global co-lead of metaverse initiatives for Boston Consulting Group. In his work with TMT clients, Tibor focuses on digital transformation and technology-enabled growth strategies. He helps companies unlock value from data and become data-driven organizations. Tibor joined BCG in 2011 and spent 1 year as an ambassador in the Houston office in 2014. In 2018, Tibor was an interim chief customer officer at a large European telco. He has led data-driven sales customer value management transformations for B2B and B2C companies in the tech, media, telco, industrial good industries, and he has done from data architecture to introducing artificial intelligence to decision makers and frontline workers. Tibor has also led many digital transformation efforts and buy side and sell side due diligences. Prior to joining BCG, Tibor co-founded a freestyle fashion startup in Switzerland. He holds an MSc in finance from ISAD, Master in International Management from University of Sydney, and Bachelor in Business Administration from University of St. Gallen. Tibor, a very warm welcome to you from School of Business team.
Thank you so much and very nice to be here today.
Thank you, Tibor. Let me also give a warm welcome and introduce our host for today, Dr. Akhil Damodaran from UPS School of Business. Today's discussion is being hosted by my colleague, Dr. Akhil, who is a cluster head emerging business at the School of Business UPS. The emerging business cluster of our school comprises of new age programs and emerging technologies like analytics, digital business, blockchain, metaverse, Web 3.0, to name a few. Akhil is an experienced executive with over 12 years of experience in telecom, IT, aviation, and education industry. He's the founder and CEO of Alteridium, a smart contract venture, and founding member of Blockchain for Productivity Forum. And he's also an regional mentor for change at Atal Tinkering Lab Niti Aayog and was in 2021 Celerity 40 under 40 list. He is a postgraduate in management from DMS IIT Delhi and bachelor's in engineering from Rajiv Gandhi Technical University. Once again, on behalf of School of Business, UPS, and all the participants, I extend a very warm welcome to our host and request Dr. Akhil to take the stage. Thank you.
First of all, great thanks, Amit, for the great introduction of both of us. You really made at least my day here. Anyway, so the point here is, before I start and give it to Tibor, because everybody wants to know from you, let me start the premise here. The last 20 years, if you look at, a lot of evolution has happened. When the internet started, and there was a lot of skepticism at that time that whether this is going to be a big thing, whether it's going to be a game changer, and people even thought at that time whether email is the only thing that's going to have be the big thing for the internet. And 8 to 9 years from down the line, and all of a sudden, search engine became a big thing, and nobody thought of, and all of a sudden, then social networking came in, and then when the economic crisis happened, and there's a new trigger happened out of it, saying that whether there should be a self-governing technology. So blockchain was one thing which came out as a top. At the same time, gaming industry was moving like almost a 200 to 300 billion dollar industry now, which was started for the kids, to be very frank. And then in the last 10 years, this whole new world of virtual reality, augmented reality, and then the word metaverse came in. And to be very frank to you, I think you are the best judge to answer this, but there's a two sides of a coin. That people think it's a hype, people think it has a potential. But if you look at the last 2 years, the investment in metaverse has gone so much. I mean, it's a serious business. I mean, you can't deny the fact. Last 2 years, almost $80 billion has been invested in metaverse, which also include Microsoft acquiring Activision. So, with this premise of what has happened in the last 20 years, just to give it to you, I hand over to you, Tibor. What is your understanding of metaverse as a technology?
Yeah, and this is a very good question because I keep getting that at the beginning of every one of these. And while definitions are important, I also just want to share that they are not the most important thing, because we do not need to have the exact definition of the internet in order to reap its benefits in, day out. And so I think let's get into the definitions, but I also, it is a bit of a rabbit hole you can get lost in as well. Having said this, we have all these buzzwords flying around our heads, right? We have augmented reality, virtual reality, Web3, but how do they all tie together? In our work with over 100 companies at BCG, we found out that we are actually speaking about 3 distinct technology areas that come together in regards to the metaverse: immersive technologies, Web3, and so-called meta worlds. So let's break it down. Immersive technologies used to be 2 distinct technologies: augmented reality, so the positioning and display of information and object into your physical world, and virtual reality, so the complete immersion of yourself in virtual worlds. What surprised us is that these 2 technologies are merging together faster than we expected. The new headsets, including the Meta Quest Pro, are able to do both. You can see your physical desk, you can use your physical keyboard, your physical mouse, but you can have as many screens as you want. And if I would turn around, I would have you, Akhil, sitting as an avatar next to me at my desk here in Vienna. So this is happening on the immersive technology side. Web3 is nothing less than the 3rd iteration of the internet. We all remember where we were when Web 1 arrived. I was in a small village in Switzerland, looking quite similar to the background Amit has behind your lovely university, when my father brought home the Apple Macintosh. And I had to haggle with my mother if she could talk on the phone or I could go on the internet. That was Web 1, but you couldn't do much. You could read pages, but you couldn't do anything else. Then Web 2 arrived. Suddenly you could read and write. And this is the age of the social media world we live in today. And with Web 3, we now introduce the element of digital asset ownership. Using technologies such as the blockchain, we can store digital information in a trusted fashion, a decentralized fashion, allowing us to own digital assets, be it tokens like Bitcoins or Ethereum, or also so-called non-fungible tokens, so unique digital information that can be stored on chain. And that enables a host of other use cases we can get to in a minute as well. And then the third area, what we call meta worlds, are these persistent social spaces, like the Fortnites or the Robloxes, you know, but also newer ones like the Sandbox or Decentraland that run on chain. So all of these three elements have something that can contribute to what we call a unified metaverse vision. There are certainly aspects that have nothing to do with a metaverse. So we used the format of a Venn diagram to show that they are still quite distinct. On one hand, because the 8 to 10-year-old users of Roblox are not the same ones in virtual reality all day, and they're not owning Bored Apes NFTs for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we see overlaps emerging, and that is going to become what we call a unified vision of the metaverse.
Fair enough point, Tibor. I mean, you have really get to the main part of it that somehow the Web3 and the metaverse and they are merging together. I mean, now you have a world where you have a transaction which is self-governing, and the best part is the blockchain is trying to be the core of it. In a sense, they are the main core part of it. That's why they call it the virtual world, virtual economics. I mean, that's how the transactions happen. Now, let me put this to the next step of it. So, what is the current the market of metaverse? I mean, what the companies are doing at this moment? Because you are in BCG, I mean, you may have many clients maybe asking you every single day this question. So, what is so great about metaverse from the industry point of view, and how the investment market is moving forward?
Absolutely. And so, I mean, to give a bit of context, let's look back for a second. Where did the metaverse origin? In the beginning, and we're still in that phase, it started in gaming. And why did it start in gaming? It is because in gaming, we already achieved critical mass for many of the enablers of the metaverse. We have the users, the gamers, we have the content, the games, and we have the hardware, the consoles, but also the virtual reality headsets like the PSVR. And that leads to what we call a so-called flywheel effect that starts the adoption, more users, more content producers entering the game, and a functioning economy that monetizes that. That flywheel is up and running in gaming, and it has been up and running for already quite some years. The next phase of adoption, we firmly believe is going to be, and it is in B2B. Now, why is it in B2B? The reason is that many of the enablers, like for example, the hardware, are still quite expensive and still not there yet. I just recently shared a post showing a car phone. I'm not sure if some of you still know what a car phone is. It used to be the precursor of the mobile phone. Akhil and Amit, they're nodding their heads. And some of the young folks here on the call might not even know a car phone anymore. But this was, for the ones that don't know it, it was almost a suitcase big version of a mobile phone that you could, first they were fixed to cars, and then later on you could carry them around. They were terrible. They were terrible. They were clunky. They were heavy. Battery life was not good. In the very beginning, you couldn't even make like international calls. It was really terrible. But that's the way it is now with the metaverse. Yeah, we're living in the car phone age of the metaverse. And if you look back again, who was owning car phones first? It was the business people. The business people were carrying that around. And so only once the friction was reduced, the phones got smaller, got cheaper, then the consumer wave hit off. So we firmly believe that today we are at the end of the beginning of the metaverse. The beginning was in gaming. It is now already hopping over to B2B. We see more and more pockets of use cases where these technologies, and this is not only limited to virtual reality, it is also happening on the Web3 side. We see adoption happening in B2B. And we firmly believe once we overcome many of the challenges, like the clunkiness of the headsets, like some of the drawbacks of blockchain, you mentioned Akhil, blockchain. For the vast majority of use cases, blockchain is not the answer. It's very inefficient if you look at transactions per second compared to centralized server client architectures. So there are still a lot of technical hurdles to be overcome. But as they are being overcome, it's not a question if, it's just a question when. We will then see adoption happening also across the B2C world.
Great point, Tibor. I mean, you have given a very specific answer that we are at the age when you have the carphones. I mean, currently it's a bulky headset, and everybody's trying to relate metaverse with that bulky headset and say that it's not going to work because it doesn't look like the thing which is possible for a normal person to keep interacting every single day, and so on and so forth. So let me put, I mean, whatever you said right now, let me continue to that. Continue to that point is, what is your view in the next 3 to 4 years? What is metaverse is going to be? I mean, in terms of, because you have said Web3, you have said about the blockchain and metaverse, and how the industry, how they are moving forward to. Because a lot of criticism happening in the Facebook side. So I want to say how it's going to be in the next 3 to 4 years. What is the trajectory the industry is going to move? I mean, BCG might have done it already. The discussion on it. So if you can give a question, yeah.
Yeah, I want to briefly hook into what you said. There's a lot of criticism right now around Facebook, or now called Meta. One thing I want to make clear: metaverse does not equal meta. That is, I think they did a great job somehow, attaching their name to the metaverse topic. Interestingly, Apple does the opposite. They are not talking about metaverse of the world, while they're already knee deep in that market. That's, I think, the biggest elephant in the room is Apple. And with all the criticism you can have about Meta around multiple topics, I think people don't give them enough credit for the groundbreaking work they've been doing. The Quest 2 headset, which I have right next to me here, is the most sold headset with over 15 million installed base. They achieved that by heavily subsidizing the headset in the beginning. They now raise prices. We calculated they even barely just break even on that device. And that has led on a larger scale to that flywheel effect starting. So we now have the adoption on immersive technologies to the degree we've never seen before on the planet. Now, in terms of asking what's happening now in the next 3 to 4 years in the business space, what we see is that many of the companies start piloting and have already started piloting. We definitely do already see a bunch of them exiting the pilot phase and going into rollout phase. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean all of their employees are in virtual reality all day long? No, it doesn't mean that. And I also want to make something clear. It's always dangerous to think in the extremes. It is not a yes or no question. The biggest, all of you know probably the song "Video Killed the Radio Star," right? Video killed the radio star. So I think it's probably also in India, used to be a hit. That's the biggest lie in pop history. Video did not kill the radio star. We're all listening to radio all day, every day still. And that's what's going to be happening as well with these technologies. I try to compare this with my laptop. I try to do all of my work and leisure on the mobile phone. And only if I cannot do it, or I need the bigger comfort of a bigger screen or a keyboard, I go and use my laptop. And that's what's going to happen, I think, the next 3 to 4 years, that for a vast majority of knowledge working jobs, you will have your workstation where you have your laptop and your kit, and you will have some sort of a virtual reality, or they're actually now converging, so you can call it mixed reality headset on your desk. And then for some types of work, you will just do it using your regular screen. And for other types, you start hopping into a mixed reality experience. Similarly, I think in certain use cases, you will see widespread adoption. One example is training. I think training is a very hot candidate for widespread adoption of mixed reality. It allows you to train the untrainable. So it is being used, for example, by the United Nations to train care workers in a war zone type environment before being shipped to a war zone. And these are things you cannot train, right? And so we see that happening there. We see that happening in healthcare, in surgery. We see that happening in patient education. So there we will see more and more of these use cases, because at some point when you hit that tapping point where doing a training in a mixed reality environment is superior, both in terms of outcomes as well as experience for the participants, you will never go back, right? And so I think we will start seeing a couple of these tipping points happening in certain industries faster than others. With the digital revolution at the beginning of this millennia, we also saw digital transformation taking foot in different industries, but this was taking foot in different industries at different points in time. And I think we'll see happening that as well with these technologies, but just on a much more accelerated timeline.
Just to add to your same answer, what you said right now, can you just also add some point on what kind of businesses will be there in the next 3 to 4 years? Because there will be early stage businesses in the metaverse. So what kind of businesses should we yeah.
Absolutely. So if I, in my mental map, go through a bit the 100 companies we worked with on this, it is very diverse. That's message number one. We have worked for industrial goods companies, for automotive manufacturers, for telco operators. I recently finished a project for a luxury goods company in Paris. We work for consumer goods companies. So it's a little bit asking like, for whom will the internet be relevant? Now, the one I would say delineation I would make is, I think we're going to see companies that are going to become builders of the metaverse, that are really going to go through the elements of the stack, say, what kind of position do I want to play on the connectivity layer, on the infrastructure layer, on the device layer, or on the platform layer on the top, in order to be powering that new world going forward. Those usually used to be the telco operators, the tech companies, the hardware manufacturers, the service providers that we see today. So these are, I would say, this type of companies, and some newer ones that say, hey, I want to become part of that builder industry in the metaverse. Now, whether or not you are a builder of the metaverse, you might decide for your own. But every company has to become an adopter of the metaverse. Even deciding not to do anything is a very conscious decision. And if you look back again into the 90s, because I oftentimes see just the same things happening like with the car phones or with the internet and so on and so forth. You remember, not every company had to fully digital transform themselves in the 90s. But at some point, it became unthinkable not to have a website. And so I think thinking through, what are these technologies really about? Really understanding them. Making it real for you as a company or an organization to say which types of use cases are more relevant to me, and say what is the type of strategy I want to take. And not doing anything is also a strategy you might want to take. It might be a risky one. It might be a cheap one today. It might be the riskiest one in the midterm. But there are different shades of gray you can go about and see what you're going to do. And that applies essentially to every kind of business. Again, we've worked for banks, we've worked for insurance companies, we've worked for healthcare companies, whereas the builders are probably more focused on the tech and telco type players today.
Great insight, Tibor. Let's continue from the same thing. So what you're saying is that the next 3-4 years, how the industry is going to be. My next question to you is, what is a strategy industry should have now so they can prepare for the ocean or which they are going to swim in, called metaverse, in the next 3-4 years, 5 years, 6 years? I'm not talking about Microsoft or the Facebook or the Apple. They know what they will do. But there are n number of companies who are even IT companies or the technology companies who really want to venture into it. And they've been venturing into it, but they don't have a clue exactly what's the road ahead of it. But your experience with other clients and everything, what is your idea or strategy or how the company should prepare for the next 3-4 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, and I can maybe talk a bit about how we go about it when we do these kinds of strategy pieces. And it depends a bit also where's the starting point that the company is in. But let me start at the very beginning. The very beginning is about education. And by education, it is not enough to just read some reports or listen to some of these webinars like now. That's a very good start. But you need to really experience these technologies. So as an example, what we are doing with many of our clients is we are really running what we call immersion sessions with the highest level of the company. Meaning that, for example, we take the element of NFT and we run an NFT workshop. We mint an NFT, we maybe buy one, we sell one, we open wallets for the executive team. But at the same time, we also go very deep on the technical side, understanding what are the underlying layers, starting from the type of blockchain to the type of smart contract functionality to the platforms to the other use cases you can build on top of it on a very technical level. And once you are really experiencing it and minting one and selling one, that's when some of the first ideas already start popping into your head. Say, oh, wow, how can I use this? Yeah. I think the second element is doing, and we do that obviously then for all these enabling technologies. The second thing is then to go one level deeper and say, I take now the very specific value chain of my company. For example, if I take a mining company, I would really start from elements like prospecting. So where would I be planning my next mine? To planning, to designing, to breaking ground, and to actually exploring, deciding, and then building the new mine, to running the mine, to then my sales and go to market as well as my internal operations. And I then use these different technologies because the use cases will be different. If you talk about Web3, if you talk about immersive technologies and the sub-elements of it, and you overlay these two things. And I think there is a clear guidance I want to give. Start with your strategy first. Yes, we have these new hammers that are all fancy and sexy and great new technologies. But just because you have new hammers, not everything should become a nail. So I'm sure many of the companies represented here or the ones who are involved, they get bombarded day in, day out by freelancers, agencies, new players that say, oh, you need to do something with crypto. You need to do something with NFT. You need to do something with virtual reality. But that's the complete wrong way to go about it. You need to start saying, what is it that really moves the needle for my business? In a mining company, it's about finding the right spots where to build a mine, or building that mine in time and in budget, or running the operations very successfully. And then you start from there and you say, how could some of these technologies help me with that use case? So out of this exercise, what we typically do is we have a format called Hack a Future. So really we hack the future of your business. We come up with a long list of use cases, and then we actually condense it back down in a Shark Tank style, where you get down to a short list of whatever 4, 5, 6, 7 initiatives that you go about. And why do you need 4, 5, 6 initiatives? If you pick 5, what's going to happen is no matter how good your preparation is, 6 months down the road, 2 will work more or less like expected. 2 will work far worse than expected. They're not going to be successful. And 1 will work much better than you had anticipated. The issue is, ex ante, I cannot tell you which is which. So this is why you need to go about and still do things in the portfolio, because we are so early days. And then I think the last step of the strategy is to say, how can I make this repeatable? How do I not only create the use cases that deliver value, but how do I create the engine that delivers use cases? And so for that engine, you need to have it in place. You need the IT stack in place. You need to have the capability to keep identifying, launching these things and doing it on a scaled up version. So that's a little bit in a summary how we go about it when defining these strategies for our customers.
Great insight, Tibor. I mean, it's a great point that first and foremost thing every organization needs to have a strategy of their own, understand the purpose of their company, and then need to understand whether they should actually move to metaverse and how they should move to more metaverse. But let me add to this to your point. So let me be very frank from the education point of view. Let me tell you that we are also launching our MBA in metaverse. I mean, MBA in specialization in metaverse and Web3, and we will be the first to start it off. So, as an education industry, Tibor, I think we not only want to prepare our students, we also want to swim in that metaverse as an ecosystem. So, what is your view in the next coming times? Where the education industry and metaverse is going to have a leg? Because you already started, I mean, with the point that the first important, investment in metaverse is the trading part of it. But so, as an education industry, what do you think in the next 2 3 years? What will be the future of metaverse as an education will be in the next 2 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. And first of all, this is extremely exciting what you're saying. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
so this
Thank
is very exciting what you're building, and you are pioneers in this regard, even on a global scale. And the other thing
you.
which excites me is, even if I just look now at the attendees of this rich webinar, I see obviously many of your students and alumni joining, but I also see many of my contacts from over here in Europe and the US. And even just, I would say, 5 to 10 years ago, this was unthinkable, that somebody who's probably taking a nice morning walk now in Europe is joining a webinar of an Indian university on something. But the experience is still quite subpar. Yes, it is like listening to radio. It's nice. You can listen to some voices, having an engaged discussion. But it is obviously pale in comparison to running a full-scale MBA on site. But we are bridging that gap between, physical presence and digital presence very quickly. So I think one of the key use cases to your question, Akhil, is using immersive technologies. We will be able to have certain sessions. I'm not saying that it's going to be immediate all day, curriculums where you are in VR right away, but we can now have sessions of 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours in a very comfortable yet very immersive way. And some of these people might now reinvest part of that tuition fee now into the hardware required, and the hardware is approaching photorealism very, very quickly. So another, I think, misconception is that these immersive technologies, these avatars, they look so bad. That was one of the criticism about Facebook. Now, the reason it is so bad, or the ones that Mark Zuckerberg showed is so bad, is he doesn't care about high quality avatars. He cares about mass adoption. And that means that he's optimizing the avatars for the lowest computing power possible. He has now introduced those to all his platforms, Instagram, even WhatsApp, but also obviously Facebook and the likes of it. And that is his goal, to have mass adoption of a very early stage of these social experiences in the metaverse. If you look at other platforms or even what's happening in the labs, we are approaching photorealism very, very quickly. And so it will be as immersive as being in your beautiful university, Amit and Akhil, using virtual reality goggles. People could not only experience the content as they can do today, but also the experience, which is differentiating you, for example, from other universities around the world. And this is only happening on the immersive side of things. On Web3, we see also a lot of use cases now popping up in education. One example is the element of credentials. Up until now, I'm not sure about India, but I know in Europe, even though we are in a European Union, it is super cumbersome, cutting through all the bureaucracy. If I have a bachelor's degree in one university and I want to do a master's degree in another university, and I might even do an exchange term at a third university. Even in these days, we're still printing out transcripts, we're sending scans, things are that. And then if you are going to the next university, you can start that process all over again, and you can start looking for your diploma wherever you have it, either at home or on your PC. So one of the use cases that is now being piloted using Web3 technology is that you have so-called verifiable credentials. And the way this works is similarly like today when you have your physical wallet, where you have, your cash, your cards, your gym memberships, whatever, which you carry around physically with you. You decide which of these credentials you take out and you show to a physical place when you walk around, and you put it back in. But you are not giving, for example, to the bouncer at a discotheque or to the entry check at the gym. You're not giving your full wallet and keeping it there and let's say, please copy it, you can keep it forever. That's not how things work in the real world. They do work like that in the digital world today, right? Because when I log in with Facebook or Google or one of these other ones, that's also quite convenient, but they know everything about me. So using verifiable credentials, you can now have a method where you really and only you have in your wallet that credential and you decide what to share, and you can do so even in a so-called trustless fashion. Technically speaking, for some use cases, the verifier doesn't need to know everything about you. He only needs to have a yes or no question. Is he or she allowed to enter that space, be it digital or physical? And that is now being built up using Web3 technologies in Europe, that once you graduate from a European university, you might still get your fancy diploma with the stamp on it and all of that, but you will also get a credential of that. And if you then go on to another one of the European universities, you only have to connect your wallet. There is going to be a so-called trustless way of proving that this credential that you got from the other university is valid. There's no more need to exchange other documents or make phone calls, whatever, because it's all cryptographically handled. And that immediately grants you to pass the authentication for the next university. And as you then move on, you get again a credential when you, for example, finish your master's degree. And this is now already quite efficient and a nice experience for a student. Now, one could argue, well, it's not the biggest pain point in the world. Every 2 to 3 years, you might have to do such a verification. But this is only the beginning. You could now say, well, somebody who has studied at that certain university might already be considered a very attractive customer for another type of business. Or, you might also have these type of student promotions in India, where if you're a student of a certain university, you might get a certain special discount on a bank account or a credit card, whatever it is. And that can be attached to it. So that bank could just say, connect your wallet here. And they wouldn't have to know your grade. They wouldn't have to know your, your name even. They just would cryptographically say yes or no. He or she is a graduate of that university. Immediately can get access to that credit card or that bank account. So we see already in education many experiences popping up, be it on the immersive side, but also on the Web3 side.
So just to add to your point, Tibor, some of the universities in India have started the blockchain-based certification and credential programs for all the degrees. And I think we are at the initial level, so I mean that's a long way to go. But yes, we have started off at that point. So let me start to get into the conclusion questions now. So because I think you have covered regarding what the industry is all about, you have also covered regarding the strategy the industry is going through, and then we have also understood about where the metaverse will be in the next 3-4 years and where the education industry is. So let me come straight to the point. The new coming future leaders, the future, the students who are going to be swimming in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the ecosystem of Web3, blockchain, and especially the metaverse. What these students needs to be prepared of for the next 8 to 9 years. As an industry, what is your advice for the future leaders to be?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to start with 3 things you can do today in order to get prepared for this new reality. And then I want to go into a bit what you can already start preparing yourself tomorrow in order to become a leader in this new world. So the 3 immediate things you should do today is, one is read up. Read reports around the topic, read books. I personally read a lot of books as well. And interestingly, it's a good mix between science fiction and fiction, because we're so early in this field that you can actually learn a lot from the science fiction books. And follow the right people on LinkedIn. And I'm also happy to share my personal favorite reading list with the group after this session. The second thing is, and this is similar to what I said before, is try it out. Go to a virtual reality cafe, organize yourself some goggles. You can also rent them if you want. Try out some games, try out some of these experiences. Open a wallet, buy an NFT. Doesn't have to be a Bored Ape for hundreds of thousands of US dollars. There are also, just buy maybe one that you like for some money that you can spare, and join the Discord community and understand how big the engagement is compared to traditional campaigns. We at BCG just ran a recent research comparing Web3 type of experiences with Web2 experiences on a marketing side. And on average, they have a 5x higher engagement rate than on Web2. And that is something you need to experience yourself, because once you experience it, that's when your ideas start flowing, what you could do about it. And the third thing is, don't just try it, do it. Build some experiences yourself. Teach yourself some of these new skills, like creating 3D models. Last year, I was giving away Christmas presents in the form of NFTs. I was following a tutorial how to build three-dimensional models using an open source software called Blender. And to my close knitted circle of friends, I asked them to give me their wallet address, and I sent them an NFT as a digital asset, which obviously was also better for the planet than if I would have bought them something in the physical world. So this is something I think you can do today to really immerse yourself and get a better understanding what it is. And I think tomorrow, I think you should be really bold about the future. These are going to be changes to every single industry we have not seen probably for the past 20 years. So you live in a golden age as a generation that is entering the workforce today. And you can, if you harness these technologies to your benefit, you can do things that are even unthinkable to us today, what you can do. And I want to illustrate that with an example. What we are doing now is we are bridging the gap between simulation and reality. And for example, the super sports car brand Bugatti has already harnessed that power for them when they were creating the newest model, the Bugatti Mistral. They created a virtual reality first version of the Mistral, the digital original of it. They optimized it, they produced it, they iterated and iterated before creating the physical twin. And using that method, they cut down by 40% compared to the traditional method 15 years ago. This is in a industry like automotive that is fully optimized. It's one of the most mature industries on the planet, and taking out 40% on a mature process like this is just unheard of. Now, why am I so excited about it? I'm so excited about it because for the first time, we can create any physical product or process the same way we create software. So we can apply new methodologies like agile development, DevOps, test-driven development, automated testing, all these kinds of things that we couldn't do in the physical world. And if you are just bold enough to say, what could this mean for entire industries? Or what could this mean for my personal day in, day out, my personal daily life? I think we will be able, with this new technology, to really take many of these experiences of human experiences to the next level.
Great point. Great point. I think there's a lot for the students as well as the faculties as well. I mean, you have said that you have to read a lot. You have to be part of the LinkedIn to network people who are on this area, and you have to keep trying on this new technologies. And you have to be really bold with with the strategy, which what decision you're going to take for the future. With that, I think this is a very important insight which you have given to us, Tibor. I'm very frankly speaking to you, because for us as a university, we are anyway moving towards the metaverse, and this is a real cut edge idea which you have given to us in terms of what the metaverse is all about and how the industry is moving and where we have to guide in the next 3, 4 years or 5 years to move in that particular direction. I think this this is a really great, interesting interaction we had, and really crystal clear about the idea of what exactly the ecosystem is all about. With that, Tibor, I think I really want to thank you and your entire team also to support us and you being our guest here. And really thank you for giving us the opportunity to interact with you and to understand the metaverse strategy and everything. It's really a great honor to be with you in this particular webinar. Thank you so much. Over to you, Amit, for the closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Akhil. Let me, take this opportunity. I'm sure I may state this on behalf of all of us that it has been indeed a pleasure to hear Tibor today. The way Tibor has explained a complex concept in a simplifying way for our audience has been amazing. And I'm sure with today's discussion and discourse, the participants would have gained a lot of clarity around immersive technologies, Web 3.0, digital asset ownership, a unified vision of metaverse, which Tibor spoke about. I personally have gained, many nuggets of wisdom from today's discussion, Tibor. The flywheel concept in gaming, which you mentioned, and the next phase of adoption in B2B. Not to think in extremes while visualizing mixed reality in future. The future scenarios, implications, especially in the area of training, healthcare, where the mixed reality can play a crucial role because you can try and test before actually going for the on-field kind of a role. The choice of becoming a builder or an adapter of metaverse. So our continuous endeavor at UPS, as Dr. Akhil has mentioned, is working with a strong focus in integrating the understanding, implication, and experience of metaverse immersive technologies through our programs and creating a comprehensive ecosystem for our students, our faculty members. And I believe this session has added a lot of value in this area. So a new
Uh,
iteration of the internet is being worked upon, and this will have massive implications for society. I'm sure marketing, communications, branding professionals will face new challenges, but also new opportunities. So this new era of metaverse will, I'm sure, unleash amazing creativity and open up frontiers and horizons for brands and businesses. Now the question which remains is, how are we getting ready? And let me take this opportunity also to share our excitement to be in some way a part of the immersive sessions which you have talked about, if we may, to gain a further detailed perspective. Also, it would be our pleasure to host you at our Serene campus at UPS whenever you plan next to India. So,
but Tibor, just to add to it, there are some Q&As from the students and others. If you can just take 2 3 minutes, that would be much better for us. So if anyone has a question, please you can write on the chat. I know it was a very crystal clear presentation, so I mean he has been very clear to it. So, but the one question I think which came out right now is, what are the major barriers to metaverse adoption? I mean, I think you have
That's an
already covered it slightly. Yeah, but if
Yeah,
you can.
but very happy, and thank you, Aman, for breaking the ice with the first question. So as you can imagine, the barriers, they are quite diverse as well. And if I briefly go through again the three enabling technologies, so the immersive side, the Web3 side, and the meta world side, we can name a couple of these barriers. On the immersive side, a lot of it is still about the headsets. Yeah, the headsets the Quest 2 weighs 500 grams, but if I want to get down to the beautiful glasses Amit is wearing, I need to get down to 80 grams. Now, how do I get down from 500 to 80 grams? I need to offload the computational power from the device somewhere else. Now, that sounds easy enough, but it's super hard because that somewhere else needs to be communicating fast enough with the device that I don't experience any lag. That means that this connection, this network connection, needs to have a latency, so a time of the signal traveling between the device and the server and back, of below 5 milliseconds. So even if you are in a very good network area, you're today probably more around 25 milliseconds. So we need to have much more powerful networks, for example, using technology such as edge network, which can be translated as almost a cupboard, which is physically closer to you than the server staying far away, which is able to run the computation close by, achieving these low latencies there. So this is something which is one of the big barriers, is still the form factors of the device, because today even the best devices you cannot really wear longer than like 2 hours, either because it fatigues you from the experience or simply because the battery life is not good enough. On the Web3 technologies, to give there an example, it is, as I said before, the element again of efficiency and speed. There's a big debate, or was a big debate, around the sustainability of blockchains. And yes, traditional proof of work blockchains like Bitcoin, but also like the old Ethereum, they were terrible in terms of sustainability. They were using the equivalent of an entire mid-sized country in Europe, just for example, for the old Ethereum blockchain. Now, the good news is we see tremendous progress being made there. Ethereum recently completed the so-called merge, meaning that they transitioned, in simple terms, from a proof of work to a proof of stake consensus algorithm. So essentially the way how new blocks are being created. And that already reduced the amount of energy, for example, for the Ethereum blockchain, from entire Switzerland, where I grew up, to a single small village in Switzerland. So that's kind of already the advancements we see there. But if I look at other aspects of blockchain technology, like for example, transactions per seconds, we're still light years away from having transactions per seconds like the big credit card and payment companies like Visa or MasterCard are handling. So there's a lot of these elements happening there as well. And I am sure that as time moves on, we'll see more of them being broken down. Similarly, like we are no longer using car phones, but then accelerated into the age of smartphones as well.
Great point. Just quickly, I'll take another question so that I hope you had time, Tibor. I think
I can spare another 5 minutes. Yeah.
No problem. So there are two questions. I think I want to combine both. What would be the data security challenges in metaverse with increasing identification and verification methods coming up? The second question is coming from Mona Bagla. She's part of the metaverse team we have in university. And she says, what about the compassion and empathy aspect of this new world? And what happens to the age-old concept that 80% of the communication between humans is non-verbal language? So how this is going to be cultural part? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And these are excellent questions. So let me start with the security challenge. Cybersecurity is a big topic already today. It's a big topic already today. Elements like fraud, like identity theft, and other types of cyber hacking are a big issue already today. Now, with this new world, I think this is only getting worse. And it's getting worse, I think, in 2 dimensions. I think one is the element of fraud, because this is a wild, wild west out there. Anyone who has been part of for example, buying an NFT has already experienced that, because it is new. You are not yet used to these new interfaces. If I compare this to the regular internet, all of us know that if you're on a website and the website has the small lock on the top left, you can be pretty sure that this is now a secure connection where you can now transact. We don't have that small lock yet in Web3, right? So it is to some degree, it is new, and if you are especially a new joiner, you are running the risk of getting defrauded on some of these transactions. So that's, I think, one of the elements of fraud. The other element is going to be extremely important, is the topic of authenticity and identity management. So let's just think through this for a second. Right now, you would trust more or less that I am who I say I am, Akhil is who he says he is, and Amit is who he says he is. You could maybe go on the website and see that all of us have these profiles, work at the companies we are, so that you say, okay, we are legit, and probably you would assume we don't have some sort of deep fake software that is now kind of pretending who we are and all of that. That is not yet the case. Now, even I would say only in 3 to 4 years, these technologies around deepfaking will be so widespread that you will no longer be able to trust that. If you look at some of the avatars in the labs, they are photorealistic today. And so first of all, how can you be sure that I am who I am, and that even if I'm using an avatar that looks like me, that it is me operating this avatar in this very second? Because already today, somebody else could be using my avatar. And to be honest, sometimes I do it not for these kinds of webinars, but if we are shooting videos, I sometimes allow members of my team to operate my avatar if they just need me in a scene or whatever without saying a word. Now, how can you ensure that? And so I think we will need to rethink elements like identity management. Maybe this is going to be something where, again, Web3 comes into play, where people need to have not only the avatar, but also a credential on the blockchain that says it's me now who has verified this avatar. Similarly, like the blue check mark on Twitter, which says this is the real person behind that account. And we might need other technologies that, for example, continuously scan my biometrics to ensure that this is now a verified type of interaction you're having with a person. Now, speaking about interactions about persons, Mona, excellent question around the old concept of 80% of communication is nonverbal. I think actually we are getting more human with these technologies. It sounds a bit like a paradox. You think, how can it be human to put on a headset or, to have all these devices? Isn't it much more human to be out in nature and all of that? And I think it's not an either or again. I think it's currently quite inhumane the way how we are going into the digital world. We are not made to have black bricks in our hands and look like this and put with our fingers pointed at it. I'm sure if you go into any subway wherever you live and you just for a moment look around, you see people hunched over black screens the moment they enter the subway and the moment they leave the subway again. Now, one could say it used to be the same thing with newspapers, so that didn't change a lot. But having the way to interact in 3 dimensions, that is the way we were built as advanced monkeys. And so having a more natural way of interacting with information while in the same time being centered in the real world is, I think, becoming much more human-like than many of these Web 2 interactions we had today, Mona.
Great point, Tibor. I think that's a really important question and answers you have given to us. So I think your time is getting short because I know you have to leave. So great, thank you for the interaction you have given. I'm giving over to Amit, but just to give 2 points. First, Tibor, please provide your reading list. We all want to know your reading list, what you're reading, and we want to read that. And secondly, this whole conversation will be recorded and will be in YouTube in next 2 to 3 hours. So people who are not joined or because of some reason, they can still record. So I'll be sharing you the link after that. Over to you, Amit.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akhil. So dear participants, you may access our past webinars through our School of Business YouTube channel and may follow our LinkedIn page for staying updated on many such initiatives being driven at our UPS School of Business. Now, with a promise to continue this knowledge exchange, we will soon be back with the next section in our webinar series. Let me once again take this opportunity to thank profusely to Tibor, Akhil, and to all our wonderful and knowledge-seeking participants. I wish you all a great day till we meet again. Thank you, Tibor. Thank you, Akhil. Thank you to all the participants.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.